Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest and welcome to a standalone answer and question video. These questions come from Parikh H. Sanjay, who asks, could you please share your thoughts on investing through SMSF and how to set one up? Well, I can't answer the second question, how to set up an SMSF, which stands for Self-Managed Super Fund, because I don't have one. I do not have an SMSF. But what I would say is I have, or my super is just one little rung down from an SMSF. So what I'm going to do in this video is go through the super I have currently, go through the history and why I have shifted my super from the traditional type to a much more, what I would consider a much better type of super, where you have way more control and choice. So let's do that right now. When I first started working many years ago, one of the things I did not like about super was the lack of choice and control. And when I say lack of choice and control, I mean when you had to decide what type of investment strategy you were aiming for, you had a choice between defensive, aggressive, how defensive, how aggressive, but you had no choice about what individual companies you could invest in. And I absolutely hated that. Absolutely hated the lack of choice and control you had when it came to your super. So from the get-go, I searched out for alternatives without knowing if there were any out there. And then finally one day, early on in my investing life, I found Australian Super's Member Direct. And this was a game changer for me. This was one of the best days of my life. Well, that's not true. One of the best days of my investing life when I realized something like this existed that gave you way more control over what your super invested in. So Member Direct offers you more control and choice over the investment of your super or retirement income. Through the Member Direct investment option, you can invest in shares, ETFs, LICs, term deposits, and cash through an easy-to-use online platform. You also get access to real-time trading, market information, independent research, investment tools to help you make informed investment decisions and manage your portfolio. So this particular option suits members who want to be actively involved in managing their investments. That's exactly what I was looking for. This was an amazing day because I went from having my super in a super fund, I can't remember what it was, where I had very little control. All I said was I wanted to be more aggressive, that sort of thing, to this. And within 1 week, my super went from whatever I was in into Australian Super Member Direct. And I was in this for maybe 6 or 7 years. And it was great, absolutely brilliant. Also, during this period, I was learning a lot about investment, that sort of thing. So this was a great way to learn as well. However, there was one shortcoming when it comes to Member Direct. And that was, even though it did give you more control and choice, it wasn't absolute control and choice. And the reason I say that is if you have a look at how does it work, just below there, just below the what is Member Direct, it says, to make your own strategy by investing in a choice of shares in the ASX 300 index. Yes, you could only invest in companies that were a part of the ASX 300 index. And at times that was frustrating. When I discovered a company that was not in the ASX 300, I could not put that company, even if I thought it was a high quality company, into my super. And that wasn't frustrating. So when that became more and more frustrating, I decided I needed to find an alternative. And I was looking and looking, and then I found one. And I realize it's probably way more than this now because this was quite a few years ago. I found one from Netwealth, and this particular super was called, what was it called? Super Accelerator Plus. And this was another game changer for me. So unlike Aussie Super, Australian Super, where you could only put your money into ASX 300 companies and ETFs and LICs, in this particular platform, in this particular super, you could put your money into any single company on the ASX. Now, there was some limitations. There was some limitations. You couldn't put all your money into a story stock. There was some limitations. I won't go through that right now, but any single company on the ASX you could put your money into. Anyway, but there was one more thing, and this got me really, really excited. You could also put your money into companies listed on foreign exchanges. So ASX companies, also companies that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, companies listed in UK, Canada, France, Germany, Netherlands, Japan, Hong Kong, Switzerland, Belgium, Denmark, Sweden, Singapore, Italy, Spain. Now, you can't put your money on any company listed on one of these exchanges. There was an approved securities list, and you can find that just by a simple PDF. For instance, if you like a particular company listed in France, you'd have to download this particular approved list and see if it is on this list. For instance, say you wanted to invest in what's a company listed on the Paris Stock Exchange? Probably Airbus. Yeah, Airbus would be one. And it is. Airbus is on this particular list. So you go, hallelujah, I can invest in Airbus. So I actually have done this quite often. I have looked at these lists and went, oh, yes, I can invest in this company. And that's exactly what I've done. Put my money into companies that are listed on foreign exchanges. And that was or is a game changer. Now, I'm not sure about the fees. I can't remember the fees, but I believe, so for instance, Euronext Paris, there is a French financial transaction tax, 0.4% buy only. And I also believe there might be a fee, maybe a $20 to $30 fee if you invest in some international exchanges. I could be wrong on that. But there is a fee. So you do have to be mindful of the fees. Another thing I don't like about Netwealth Super Accelerator, whatever it's called, is on the ASX, your fees are $18, which do seem to be excessively high these days. Maybe 20 years ago, 10 years ago, that wouldn't be excessively high. But these days, $18 a trade is excessively high. So what I've done, because of those higher than normal fees, is any high quality company I want to invest in, I usually use my super. That means much less trading. In fact, I trade very little in my super. And whenever I discover a high quality company, more than likely, I'm going to use my super to buy that high quality company. So that is where my super is in right now. Netwealth, Super Accelerator Plus, way more control versus your traditional super, but probably less control, maybe not probably, definitely less control than an SMSF, where you have absolute control, maybe not absolute, but definitely much more control over what you can invest in compared to this particular platform, but a lot more work needed as well. And that was one of the things that attracted me to this particular platform. Way less work. Netwealth does most of the work for you. Okay, and since I put my money into Netwealth, I haven't really searched for any alternatives, but there is a chance, maybe within the next few years, I will look for an alternative just to see if anything better has developed, begun, whatever, over the last few years. Because who knows, maybe there are better options right now that I don't realize. Maybe. Anyway, so that's all I have for this particular answer and question video. If you have any more questions, any thoughts, leave those in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I am not a financial advisor. If you need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.